Welcome, everyone. I'm Emily Jennings, Senior Manager for Chapter Support and Development here at CAI. Today, we have Lula with our Government and Public Affairs Department. She's going to be talking about the LAC nomination process. To some of you, this is old news. You've done this several times. To others of you, you might be new to the chapter, either a new chapter executive director, president-elect. So this will be good information for you. Before I turn it over to Lula, just a couple housekeeping things. If you are able to put your chapter, change your name and put your chapter in there, that's very helpful as we're answering questions and knowing who's in the room. Also, if you have any questions, we're going to hold those until the end. But if you are like me and you think you might forget your question, you can go ahead and type it in the chat and we will come back to it. So I'm going to share my screen with the presentation as I turn it over to Lula. Lula, take it away.
Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lula Vicado with CAI. As you all know, I handle a lot of the LAC appointment process. We have about 600 plus volunteers across the 50 states that volunteer for the LAC appointment. So I'm going to go over this as I have it on the PowerPoint, but as Evelyn say, hold on to your questions because I might be covering a question that you may have. I will answer that at the end of this webinar. So with the LAC, let me start off saying what is LAC? LAC stands for Legislative Action Committee. A lot of people get confused between LAC, IMPACT. We tend to use a lot of acronyms. So I wanted to kind of distinguish that committees. There are committees of CAI National appointed by the chapter for the chapter delegates and appointed by the seating LAC for at-large delegates, and then the final approval is done by the CAI president. With LAC appointment process, the next slide, please. We currently have 37 LAC states. On this map, you will see states that are highlighted in blue. Those are the states that we currently have legislative action committees within those states. States that are in yellow, we do not have a legislative action committees, but we do track legislation for those states. Just wanted to kind of distinguish that. The next slide, please. So the LAC, the whole goal of the LAC nomination process is to provide LACs with a diverse group of members that carries the public policy interest with CAI membership and community association housing model. As I stated, we currently have over 500 volunteers that volunteers across the states. With that, we are limited to terms for each LAC. Each LAC is termed to 10 years, 2 years equal to what, 5 terms. And then for the chairs and vice chairs is limited to 6 years, which is 3 years. I mean, 2 years term. I'm sorry. It's kind of like vice versa. It's kind of confusing. But that term limit began in 2012, just because we wanted to have an opportunity for turnover for our delegates to have the opportunity to serve on a different LAC, as well as, take on different task force that they need to. Next slide, please. So with that LAC nomination process is every 2 years. With that in mind, the appointment process is from October 1st of each year to September of the 2-year cycle period. So for this particular term, for example, is from October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2026. Within that term period, I just wanted to kind of address it. We do have a few LACs that have a staggered term, meaning their legislation doesn't end probably until the end of the calendar year. So with that, we'd be mindful of, keeping everyone on that LAC roster until the end of their term, which is sometime in December, sometime late October. And with that, also we do have some that drops and some that adds LAC appointees within that open term period. Ways for LAC can appoint a delegate is two ways. For the chapter delegate, the chapter delegates are appointed by the chapter, and approved by the chapter board. With this appointment process, let me go back one step ahead. Actually, for both the chapter and at-large delegates, it is a self-nomination process. So with the self-nomination process, for the chapter delegate, you have to submit your appointees to the chapter, and then the chapter board will approve and then submit that to the CAI National. Then we process that. Also goes the same for at-large delegate. The at-large delegates are appointed and approved by the current seating LAC before your term ends. So that way we can appoint and approve both the chapter and at-large delegate at the same time on the CAI national level. The next slide. I think this is the most important part of the LAC appointment process. Now we know that it is two ways that you can appoint delegates, a chapter and at-large delegate. With that, we wanted to be mindful of limiting the number of delegates each LAC can have. Each LAC will consist of a maximum of 6 and a minimum of 20. With that said, I'll use California, for example. California have a larger chapter. They have 8 chapters. Each chapter appoints 2 delegates for the chapter delegates. So that would make it 16. And the remaining 4 delegates would be an at-large delegate. So that goes for a single chapter, for example, you can appoint 6 chapter delegates, and then your remaining can be an at-large delegate. And also with that, we wanted to be mindful of having a membership representation group within the 3 membership categories: the homeowner volunteer leaders, the homeowner volunteer leader, the community association managers, and the business partner. With that, also, we wanted to make sure to have 1 member from each company, not having multiple members from the same company. And I think I got that covered, right? Yeah. So, and I think that is the key here. We wanted to have a representation. So for example, I'll give you an example. If Massachusetts have 6 delegates, we would like to have 2 homeowners, 2 business partners, and 2 community association manager. That's not the case all the time, but we wanted to have all those 3 representation, so you can have 3 business partners and 1 manager, and then 1 homeowner volunteer leaders. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an example. Next slide, please. And also here, I just wanted to kind of touch on this just as a CED, the chapter executive, your role, and as well as how you can collaborate with the LAC within your state, as well as also with the CAI National. With some of the states that have LAC administrators, I use Emlyn, for example. She handles a lot of the Florida appointment process. She closely works with each CEDs within each chapter and get that appointment to me with all the LAC forms. That's a lot easier in that way, but that's not the case with all of the states. Most of the states do handle the LAC appointments with the CEDs. In addition to that, We also encourage all the CEDs to keep any financial bookkeeping when it comes to filing the taxes, and also just having all of their annual budgets. We also would love to have all the CEDs and the LACs collaborate together in terms of any communication that's going on within the LAC. You know, I know sometimes it's hard, especially with the bigger state when you don't have a LAC administrator to handle a lot of this stuff. But here at CAI, we are here to support you on those communication or anything that you needed help on. Next slide, please. So as I touched on the LAC financials, it is required for each and every LAC to submit their annual budget, the quarterly financials, and also the tax 990, the federal tax 994. I did this sample form just so that way when you prepare your budget, you know what to look for when there are due, just to kind of help you and give you guidance as to what to include as an expense, what to include as an income, you know, what to expect as an income. In addition to this, we also have the LAC donation where CEDs and LACs can actually work together to fundraise for any cause or any fund that the LAC needed to raise. I will believe that's the last slide, right? Okay, so we do have a lot of the LAC resources. I have also sent this memo out to all of you guys. If you haven't received it, please let me know. I also will make sure that this get included with the chapter communication that usually goes out. And I also will include this memo with my end of the month report that I sent it to all of you guys that has the appointment memo, the LAC guideline, all of the necessary forms that is expected from you guys. At this time, I would take any question that anybody have. I know it's a lot of information that I went through, but you know, I just wanted to kind of highlight the key areas of what need to be covered.
Go ahead, Kelly. I saw you came off mute.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Kelly Shields in North Carolina. Do the LACs have their own tax ID number or EIN number and file their own separate set of tax returns? Or does that get combined with the chapter?
The LAC uses the chapter tax ID number.
So when you had said the LAC needs to file their tax returns, the chapter has to combine the LAC's financials with the chapter's financials and do one tax return?
That is correct. Currently, that's how we have it. And I know there's been a question raised as to how each chapter should handle the tax forms. But currently, that's how we have it in the LAC guideline, where the LAC need to work with the chapter to file the 990s.
Okay.
And for those chapters who have multiple chapters in a state, for Florida, for example, I know I'll just use you all as an example because you're on. There is one chapter in Florida that files that with their taxes. So, and that's the case for California and others that have multiple chapters. It's important for you all to know who that chapter is that files. So if you don't know, definitely reach out to us and we can let you know so that we know that all the chapters are covered in that way.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Heather, did you have a question?
I do. I was trying to send my son out of the room.
Oh.
He keeps talking to me. I'm like, I have a question to ask. Go away. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have my Idaho LAC. They have plenty of managers and business partners, but we only have one homeowner leader. and I have more business partners and more managers that want to come on. Is that okay that we can't find more homeowner leaders? Can I bring on more of the other two categories?
So we highly encourage to have those 3 membership categories. If you really needed help finding a homeowner volunteer leader, we encourage you to reach out to us. So what we can do is we can run a list of all homeowner volunteer leaders in Idaho and provide that information to you so you can look at those lists and see who can qualify or who would like to serve on the LAC.
We have at least one.
If you have one, with Idaho is a single chapter.
Yes.
So with that, you usually have just what, 6 or 7 people the most. So I will suggest that at least have the other 2 membership categories balanced out equally. The community association managers and the business partners.
But their total membership should stop at 6 or 7 delegates. Is that what you said?
Well, if it doesn't stop there, I will really encourage at least having 3 business partners and 3, at least 2 or 3 managers, or vice versa, if you're gonna have just 1 homeowner volunteer leaders.
Okay, I think we have 3 business, without looking at the roster. I think we have 3 business partners, 3 managers, and then that 1 homeowner leader. But then I
Okay.
have another manager and another business partner that would like to join.
Okay, I will have to look at just to see the membership representation groups, just to see if it balance out, Heather. I can look at that and let you know by email.
Yeah, my biggest concern is just that I cannot find additional homeowner leaders to help balance out that I have so many managers and business partners.
Okay, yeah, so we highly encourage to balance out the membership category.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Heather.
Any other questions that you have? Or any comments that you want to make about your LAC nomination process that works well, or anything?
Emily,
Yes.
which chapter is taking care of that for Florida?
It's the North Gulf Coast chapter.
Okay, because I remember one year we had to each send in like $230 or something like that to help with the filing of the taxes. And we
Right.
haven't done that here recently, so I was just curious.
Yeah, the chapter, from what I understand, is now budgeting for that. That was an unexpected expense that year, because they switched chapters. So, but now it should be good to go. So, Teresa?
Unmute.
There you go.
I have to, I don't know who does it for the Hudson Valley. This is my first time and I'm a unit homeowner and they put me on the LAC committee, but for the Hudson Valley, but I don't have the information concerning, I'm sure New York State has several chapters.
Oh, good, me too.
So I'm
So we currently working on with the New York chapters right now, just to figure out who's filing their taxes. So once we get that figured out, we definitely will communicate with each of the chapters, so that way you're aware of it.
okay, because this is the first I've heard of it. I have no idea.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other question? It means maybe I went through the slides and gave you all the information that you needed. So if there's no questions, that means I covered everything, but I will stay online for another 5 minutes if anybody has questions. And additionally, feel free to reach out to me by email. I usually try to respond back within 24 hours. So I'm always available to answer any question that you guys have by phone or email.
Thank you so much, Lula, for all of you. We will share the recording in case you need to share it with anyone else in your chapter. And as always, the chapter relations team is here to help too. So if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us as well.